What's up, Niners faithful? This is Juju Talk Sports. That's Jose Corral. This is 49 Reasons to Listen. Go ahead and hit that subscribe button for all great Niners content. On today's episode, it's been a week coming, but we're finally getting around to talk about this NFL Top 100. And guess what? Niners, well represented. We have 5 players on here. So unfortunately, we're not the highest ranked team in terms of players listed on the list. That honor would go to the Saints and Ravens, who had 7 players combined, but 5 not doing so bad. So let's go through who we have. So starting off the list, we have Fred Warner at 70. Not too bad for, Fred. We have Jimmy G at 43. Richard Sherman sitting over there at 28. So the veteran cornerback is getting some love still at 17. Coming off his strong rookie season, Nick Bosa. And then at number 7 ranked overall player, voted by the players, George Kittle. All right, Jose, when I list all those rankings, tell me, what do you think?
The first thing that I kind of took a note to was actually Richard Sherman there at 28. It was really cool to see him there at that 28 spot, especially after last year, him not being unranked, not even being in the top 100. It's a ranking according to players that are in the league right now. So for him to go back and play to that level of not just being barely cracking the top 100, all the way up to top 30 to being 28, that really shows you how much respect he has around the league. And it shows you how much respect he has within the players in the league, saying that, okay, this guy not only is obviously the leader of that secondary, he's the leader of the defense, and in some cases the leader of the team as well, especially when it comes to leadership, especially on the vocal side of things. It really shows you how important that is for players around the league, and it was really cool to see Richard Sherman there at number 28.
The one that stood out to me, and we'll get into Jimmy because Lord knows we have hammered Jimmy G's ratings among the national media to death. It's going to be Fred Warner. So him popping up on the top 100, I think, is a very big moment for him. I think he's shown to be a great voice of that defense. And I think when a guy like Richard Sherman has moved on for the 49ers, it's going to be Fred Warner's defense to run. I don't think Nick Bosa is necessarily a vocal leader. And obviously Fred Warner plays a position in middle linebacker where you're calling out the plays, that it's going to be more pivotal for him to be seen as the face of that defense, the face of that Niners defense that keeps them going for years to come and keeps them dominant for years to come. It's going to be an interesting time whenever we talk about Fred Warner for where he ranks in the league, what he should get compensated. That conversation is going to be coming up here in a couple of years. But for now, I think it's very telling and a great compliment to him that he is ranked on this list so highly. One of the things, too, when you think about Fred Warner is how much of a steal he's been for the Niners. Because at the time when he was drafted, he was supposed to just be a compliment to Reuben Foster. And now he's taken the middle linebacker position there. And he's ascending to almost that Patrick Willis tier in a lot of Niners fans' minds.
It was really cool to see Fred Warner there on that list at number 70, just because it's been pretty much a known fact that he basically might just be the leader of that defense, according to Robert Saleh. Throughout the 2019 season, he was giving him a lot of praise for being that communicator there on that defensive side of the ball. So it was really cool to see that, players around the league taking into consideration that not only can he give you 10-plus tackles basically on any game, he could really get to the backfield at any moment as well with the type of, blitz packages that are thrown, especially with that Niners defense. It's more of a leadership standpoint and more of a, communication and being that communicator on that defense when they're actually on the field. So it was really, really cool to see. And you mentioned it. It's going to be interesting to see how we're going to be able to split the money between him, Nick Bosa. Drake Greenlaw is also going to be in that conversation, especially if he plays well again his next couple of seasons. So it'll be really interesting to see, can we even keep him? I'm sure we would love to keep him, obviously. Yeah. But it'll be interesting to see how much it's going to take for us to keep a Fred Warner on the team.
That's probably a conversation for another day. What I imagine is going to happen is obviously you don't project Quan to be on the team long term. And that's no discredit to Quan, and I love Quan, but eventually you're going to want to give Fred Warner that money to be your linebacker of the future, whereas Quan is going to age out or wear and tear. We saw it. He was injured this past season. Moving on that on the list, so I guess we do have to touch on Jimmy. Again, we have mentioned the guy has just been hammered on national lists. Whether it's Chris Sims ranking him 20, whether it's being listed as a lower-end quarterback on Madden ratings, or just a bevy of national lists. And for him to be – he's number 43 overall, but he's the number 8th ranked quarterback according to the players. That would put him ahead of like Dak Prescott, Kyler Murray, who was ranked ahead of him on Chris Sims' list. He's officially ahead of as far as the player vote too. So I think that finally, at least in players' minds, and I guess this is more of a credit to Jimmy because the way you hear about Niners players talk about him is how I think that he's perceived a lot more in locker rooms. He's a real guy's guy. He's the perfect teammate. Kyle Juszczyk was the one that was hyping him up in the video package that the NFL 100 put out there. And I think there's not a lot of quarterbacks that like people are rushing to defend. You talk about Richard Sherman. Now, Richard Sherman, it's well documented that post leaving Seattle, there was a little resentment between him and Russell Wilson. Now, Russell Wilson, no doubt about it, is a better quarterback right now than Jimmy Garoppolo. And at the same time, Richard Sherman was one of Jimmy Garoppolo's most ardent defenders to his critics. So I think that says a lot, and I think that says a lot about his reputation behind the scenes. What does number 43 tell you?
It tells me everything that we've been saying. Okay, it's cool that Chris Sims has his little list. It's cool that Stephen A. Smith is going to say what he's going to say about Jimmy Garoppolo. It's cool that Madden has their ratings. They're going to do what they're going to do. But this is a list created by players, guys that are on the field every single Sunday. And it just shows you what they think, and especially basically what they thought of him this past season. This is the first complete season of him starting every single game, every single 16-game season. We could see now what he can produce when he is healthy, when he does have the weapons at his disposal, what he can do, and people around the league are finally starting to recognize that. So I think it was really cool to see, that respect that he deserves. He is like we've been saying it ever since we made our first Jimmy Garoppolo video, is he is a top 10 quarterback for us. And obviously the players, they more than agree with us. We could have actually listed probably like 7 or 8 quarterbacks that we would have put ahead. The players couldn't list, more than 8 players to put ahead of Jimmy Garoppolo. So that kind of shows you that, when it comes to a player standpoint, there is respect. In a coaching standpoint, absolutely any coach around the league would like to have, a guy like Jimmy Garoppolo in the league. So it was really, really cool to see, the players give him the respect that, he basically deserved. And it'll be interesting to see if he has a similar type of season, if that ranking just kind of goes up in the next couple of seasons, when the next couple of seasons go by, if he's going to be creeping towards the top 25. So that'll be really cool to see.
Absolutely. So next up for the Niners, of course, Nick Bosa. And he has an added bonus because he wasn't just ranked 17. He was ranked ahead of his older brother as well. And the funny part about that is Nick, or Joey, would be the first to say that he thinks Nick is better than him. In fact, that would be an interesting thing to kind of look up. Who did Joey Bosa rank higher on his personal rankings? Did he put himself? Was he a little biased, or was like, man, Nick is just such a monster? And that's saying something because Nick only had 9 sacks last year. But did it really feel like he only had 9 sacks? It felt like he was a disruptor on every single play. And I think that is very incredible. And the biggest question I would say that puts out there is if he's ranked 17 coming off a season where he didn't even have double-digit sacks and he was just a rookie, where could you see Nick Bosa landing on this next year if he puts up similar production?
I think top 10 is not unrealistic at all. I mean, you look at, the defensive end position is always a position that's going to get respect around the league. You look at a guy like Aaron Donald. He is a guy that, a lot of people say he's the best player in the league. So I think if he has another season that we expect to be more productive than he had last year, like you mentioned, it seemed like he had like 25 sacks instead of just 9, because it seemed like every single time he was, especially when he was one-on-one with the left tackle, it was not even close. He would get to the quarterback almost always. Sometimes they would play quarterbacks who would be a little bit more elusive and would be able to get the ball quick, which is why the sack number wasn't as high. But I mean, I think he's going to get more opportunities this year to have that sack count a little bit higher. So I think it'll be interesting to see if I could definitely see top 15. Obviously, he was already really close to cracking it after just his rookie season. I think a season where he gives you close to 15 sacks, he's going to be close to that top 10 as one of the top 10 best players in the league, which would be really, really cool to see. And I think it's very, very realistic to him for him to have that type of ranking, especially when players put that type of respect on a position as important as defensive end, because nowadays in the league, if you get pressure on the quarterback, that's Nick Bosa's specialty, you're going to have a chance to win a lot of games. And that's going to be the case for Nick Bosa, I think, as well in 2020.
Well, there wasn't that many edge rushers that were ranked above him. I saw names like Chandler Jones ahead of him. Of course, Aaron Donald is perennially in the top 5 on this list. So when you look around this similar competition, I think Chandler Jones obviously is the aging veteran. You would think that Nick Bosa is an ascending star. So if he stays at the same trajectory, he should easily pass him. You look at other names in that top 10, like Stephon Gilmore at cornerback. If you were to weigh Nick Bosa's importance to the Niners and to the team, you would say Nick Bosa is more of a presence and more of a threat on the field than Stephon Gilmore on any given Sunday, because the hierarchy of the NFL is you pay the quarterback, you pay the guy that chases the quarterback, and then third tier, you pay the guy that covers the quarterback's favorite target. So that would be the quarterback position. So I think that by that standard, like you're right, the defensive end position, the edge rusher position is not as valuable as a quarterback, but definitely close to that tier. I mean, let's face it, again, older brother, he just got paid big time this past week. And unfortunately, if you're a Niners fan and you're watching that cap, you're watching that budget, it does make you clutch those purse strings a little tighter just thinking about it. But lastly on this list, so the number 1 overall tight end in the league, it is settled. We had this debate, Kittle versus Kelsey. It's settled by the players. Madden settled it. Pretty much everyone is in agreement that George Kittle is the number 1 overall tight end. And more than that, which makes his contract so much more complicated, he's the number 7 overall player, the highest rated tight end ever in the entirety of this history of them making this list, which is incredible. In half of the video, half of the highlight package they put together wasn't even him as a receiving tight end. It was him just putting 300-pounders on their ass in blocking. Again, is Kittle from Iowa wrestling or is he from Iowa football? Because the way he just throws guys to the side and laughs about it, that maniacal laugh after he put the offensive lineman for the Atlanta Falcons on his butt and rolled over, it's something to watch. And I think it was Everson Griffin, who is one of the best defensive linemen in the league altogether. I'm actually surprised he's still a free agent. Can Niners get him? Side topic. Disregard. Anyway, my point is the fact you have a guy like that saying how good a blocking tight end that he's basically left tackle is incredible. And I don't know what more I can even say about how much of a star George Kittle is. But I will say this, and we may have a video coming up, spoiler alert for Niners Nation, Niners faithful out there, that accordingly, that George Kittle contract, pay George Kittle, may not be that far off. May even be just a couple days, depending on when you're watching this video. So keep that in mind. Jose, George Kittle, number 7. Go for it.
Huge. Top 10 player in the league. We knew the ranking was going to be high. I was really interested to see because the way they did it, the NFL Network released it. They did it in segments. They did it in segments of like 15, 20 players at a time. So whenever it kept on going, it went to like top 15. I'm like, okay, where is George Kittle going to land? Obviously, he's going to be within the top 15. And then the list kept on going and going. He finally landed at 7. I was like, this is huge. You mentioned it. Madden thinks he's the best tight end in the league. The players now think he's the best tight end in the league. For those of you that didn't get to watch our Travis Kelce versus George Kittle debate, it's still up on our channel. Yours truly, unfortunately, has Travis Kelce as the better tight end.
Yeah, that's right. I almost forgot about that.
I do.
Get him, faithful. Just drop him.
Get me, because obviously the players think I'm wrong as well. The players around the league think I'm wrong as well, because you mentioned it. The most impressive thing about him is not even the reception, which already you can't cover the guy. Even on a pass play, it's impossible to cover the guy. You got to put double coverage on this guy to even cover him, and that's not even his biggest attribute. The best thing that he does, like you mentioned it, he opens up so many blocking lanes. The guy will block 30, 40, 50, 70 yards down the field. It doesn't matter how long he has to go. to make sure someone gets that block that they need to expand the play, he is going to do that for you. And you can't really compare that to anybody else in the league that does that. You're kind of looking at the way that the tight end position has been going with guys like not only Travis Kelce, you got other guys that are a little bit more athletic. Maybe Gronk, now that he's back in the league, could be a little bit more comparable to him as far as the blocking side. But the tight end position has mainly gone a little bit more athletic and gone a little bit more for the reception type of player. But that's not the case with George Kittle. With George Kittle, it's still physicality to the max. It's physicality to where it puts fear into other players. Just go ahead and ask Marcus Peters of the Los Angeles Rams, where he wanted no business, nothing to do with George Kittle.
Oh, those stiff arms, man. Those
He
stiff
wanted
arms are
nothing to do with it.
ridiculous.
Nobody, and we saw that throughout the entire season. Ask the defensive backs of the New Orleans Saints, who couldn't even bring him down with the face mask. And it was just incredible to see this past. He hasn't only just been doing it this past 2019 season, which was really a really impressive season with him, even with a pretty major injury throughout the majority of that season. The season before, when he had no help around him, really, he still balled out. So, of course, more than deserving to have, a top 7 spot and one of the top players in the league. And it'll be interesting to see if that ranking will go up in the next couple of years, because he's not an aging veteran. He's not a guy that's been in the league for, 5+ years, going to double-digit years. The guy still has it, and he's still going to only be a lot better these next few years.
Well, that is an interesting debate. Like, how much can he ascend coming from 7? Again, this is the highest ranking that a tight end has ever received, but he does so many different things well that it's, Aaron Donald, is he better than him? Is he better than some of those top-end quarterbacks? That's, for people to have arguments about. We can have those arguments. We may very well. But that's for another episode. Probably the next episode, though, again, we'll see what's going on with Pay George Kittle. Is that campaign going to finally come fruition? What did you think of the Niners ranking on the NFL 100? Did you agree? Did you disagree? Was someone too low? Was someone too high? Eric Armstead just missed it by a few spots. But, hey, Niners faithful, if you want to hear more from us, definitely hit that subscribe button. Let us know what you think. Drop in those comments. Follow us on all our social medias. And other than that, Jose, is there anything I'm missing? No?
Should be good. Go
All right.
Niners.
Well, you guys have a good rest of your day. And, yeah, go Niners.